He has never fought nobody Terrence's caliber or Terrence's boxing mind that he has. So.
What's going on, people? I'm back. I dropped the video yesterday with reference to the big fight between Errol Spence, the true Spence, and Terrence Bud Crawford. Wow. That's the only word I can think of that can come to mind right now is wow. 3 letters. Wow. I don't think it's fully sunk in yet as to what we just witnessed last night. And not even just last night. This week specifically of boxing. The greatness that we watched with Naoya Inoue and his complete domination of Stephen Coolboy Fulton. But then to follow that up, that phenomenal performance up with what Bud Crawford was able to do against Errol Spence Jr. last night. I think this might be the best week of boxing that I've ever seen and maybe that we've ever had. Now, I'll have to go back into the annals of history and really look up some of the big fights, but to have 2 all-time great performances in 1 week, will we ever see that again? Like 1 in a week, sure, but 2 of this magnitude in a week? You have the monster come up to his 4th weight class and beat Stephen Fulton, and give the guys that lost, give them their fucking respect. All right, thanks for y'all for tuning in. For y'all that are here, give these guys some respect. Stephen Fulton, in my opinion, in my estimation, was 11th best fighter pound for pound in boxing across all weight divisions. Hometown boy from Philly. 11th best in my opinion. And Inoue completely dominated him. And then you fast forward to last night to see what Terrence Crawford did against Errol Spence Jr., who, in my opinion, was the number 2 welterweight. He's the big fish. They're neck and neck. I mean, Errol Spence has been running through the division as the boogeyman for the past, 5-6 years. And then you completely not just beat him, but systematically break him down after the narrative was that Errol Spence, in his opinion and his words, he was going to break him. Break his spirit, his will, his mental, his physical, all that. That's what the narrative was coming in. He too small. Who's he fought? Is he going to be able to deal with the pressure, constant pressure? Is he going to be able to respond back? Not only did he respond back, but he gave one of the best all-time performances that we've seen in boxing. And I put him up there with the all-time greats, if I'm being honest. All right. So in my prediction video, I picked Bud Crawford to win. I gave my reasons, but at the end of the video, there's a couple of things that I mentioned, but at the end of the video, I said, do not be surprised if I'm not picking him to win by knockout, but I wouldn't be shocked. And I think he's going to shock a lot of people by stopping Errol Spence Jr. I said, don't be surprised if he shocks a lot of people by stopping Errol Spence Jr. Because there's a lot of things on both sides that you could take advantage of if you're looking at it objectively as a coach on either side. But there were certain things about Errol Spence that I've mentioned over the years that I thought would come back to bite him if he didn't clean them up. And he didn't. And he paid for it. It really cost him. You know, respect to him for going out on his shield. If the ref didn't stop the fight, Errol was going to keep going. But there were certain things. Number 1, the jab and the shovel hook. That's the jab and the shovel hook to the body. That is, in my opinion, a staple of his offense and really his bread and butter. He builds everything off the jab, and then he likes to come down to the body, especially with that forward. He's done it against Kell Brook, who was a phenomenal boxer. He did it against Ugas, who people forget he just beat Manny Pacquiao in that fight immediately before fighting Errol Spence. Errol Spence got hurt, and that's why he didn't fight Manny Pacquiao, because he got the detached retina. And then in that interim, Dennis Ugas came in and beat Manny Pacquiao. And then after that, when Errol got healthy again, he came in and dominated Dennis Ugas. Right? So you're talking about a guy who's had success success over and over again using this. But what I pointed out was even in those wins, there were moments where he got caught a lot. He has solid defense, but he takes way too many shots. And what I said was, if he doesn't get that hand up as he's loading up for that shot, he's going to get caught with the two coming in, which he did the first knockdown. The first knockdown in the second round, he tried to go in for a body shot. Well, he threw the jab, and before he could even load up for the forward to the body, Terrencecrawford caught him with from the southpaw stance, which is the opposite. So the two was coming from the left hand. He caught him with the two, which I said, and then he followed it up with the jab, and Errol fell because his back foot was sitting off the ground, so he had no balance.
Some jab to the head and the body.
That's why he got up so fast, and he was looking around like, okay, I see that. He wasn't hurt. That was a balance knockdown. But he was definitely, he noticed that two coming down the pipe for sure. He wasn't destroyed by it, but he was like, okay, I see where we at now. But I said that in my video. Go ahead and check it. The second time he got knocked down was on the ropes, I think in the 7th round. He got knocked down twice in the 7th round. And when Spence, I mentioned in the video, he did this against Ugas, he'll go with that jab up top, and then he'll come with that forward to the body. And then once he has you thinking about that, you're worried about that forward to the body, then he'll start doing jab up top, duck down as if he's going to go to the body, but then throw the two or even like a four up top. Instead of throwing to the body, he'll fake like he's going to throw to the body and then zoop, come up top with it. And he tried that on the ropes against Bud Crawford. And I mentioned this. I said, when you try that, you better watch out for the uppercuts. Because he almost got his head taken off against Ugas. Because Ugas likes throwing uppercuts. I'm like, yo, you're not going to get away with that against Crawford. Or you wouldn't even get away with that against Pacquiao. But since you didn't fight him, you're not going to get away with that against Crawford unless you clean that up. And I said, if you don't, before you know it, your head will be lifted up by the uppercut and it'll be sitting in the 15th row, I believe I said, with the fans. And it was a hybrid of a hook, I guess like a shovel uppercut. Spence threw that, tried to come with that forward, and Crawford hit him with that shovel uppercut that I mentioned, and it sent him to the canvas for the second time in that fight. The two things I said in my video he needed to work on, it cost him. All right? I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I know boxing. I know martial arts. I have a passion for it. And these are some of the tells that I noticed. Tells are tendencies that you have, that you do over and over again. And people see that on film. I saw that, and that's exactly what got him hurt. And then from that point on, it was just a matter of time. It was just a matter of time. And then third, one of the things that I mentioned was there's a fighter by the name of Jared Swift Hurd. All right? And he was the boogeyman at 154 pounds, I would say, from the time of like 2016 to like 2018 or 19, or somewhere around that range, before Charlo really came through and started controlling the division. It was Jared Swift Hurd. And in my opinion, you're talking about a guy that is a big guy that's able to get down to that weight and really just impose his will on the rest of the guys in that division, because he's just bigger, stronger, and in that case, as with Spence, taller, right? So you're able to impose your will. Now, he wasn't nearly as skilled as Spence. However, he would take a lot of shots, but it wouldn't matter, because eventually he would just walk you down like the Terminator, like Spence is, and just get you up out of there. Yeah, I'm going to take about 50 shots in this round, but I'm going to land about 2 or 3 to open up the door, and then I'm going to land about 50 more to put you in the dirt. That's the break them down style. Like, I'm going to break you. That's that style. But eventually that caught up with him. And I used to comment on that about Jared Hurd. I'm like, look, you're getting these guys out there because you're bigger than them and you're able to take the punches to give out 3 or 4 more vicious ones. Sure. But eventually, I don't care how big you are, your punch resistance is going to go down with age. And as you keep weight draining, You can put the water weight back onto your muscles, your arms, your chest, but you can't put it back cerebral fluid in a short amount of time, right? You weigh in and then you rehydrate within a very short time. That's not enough time to rehydrate the liquid around your brain, and that's what accounts for a huge part of your punch resistance. And if you don't have punch resistance, guess what? Even shots from guys that normally wouldn't buzz you, they're going to start hurting you. They're going to start affecting you. You're going to start feeling punch drunk when you would have previously ate that punch and not even like twitched an eye at that, right? And eventually that caught up to Jarrett Hurd. And one of his last fights I saw, it might have been last year, he looked really, really bad. And it was clear that the wear and tear had taken its toll from the previous years, and he just couldn't win that way. And he was having some success in that fight, but eventually his body betrayed him. And that's that. And I was thinking the same thing about Spence. And I know people mention the car crash and the detached retina. Those play a role, don't get me wrong. The car crash is serious, and that's going to take something out of you. But we for sure did not see that against Danny Garcia. He came in, and I know Danny was a smaller guy, but I never seen Danny have that much problems with a guy. And he looked like he was worn down by the end of the fight. The fact that he went 12 rounds was pretty astounding to me. Props to Danny Garcia, but he was worn down by Errol Spence because he was the bigger guy, even coming off of a car crash and the layoff and the surgeries. And if we talk about detached retinas, we've seen that with Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard got a detached retina fighting Tommy Hearns. He won the fight, but he walked out with a detached retina. He had to get surgery on it, and at that time, he retired, and people didn't know if he would ever come back. And if he came back, who would he fight? And he ended up coming back and fighting Marvin Hagler. Regardless of who you think won the fight, some people say Hagler won, some people say Leonard won. The fact that he came back and was able to fight him and then killers after that and be successful speaks to what can be done as a fighter. We've seen fractured orbitals. Anyway, who I just mentioned, just got his straps in his fourth weight class. He had a fractured orbital bone against Nonito Donaire like 1 or 2 years ago. Didn't even have surgery on it, and he comes back and beats a guy like Stephen Fulton the way he did. I don't think those things take years off of your career the way that they may have taken years off your career without the advent of the advancements of medical science now that they didn't have back in the 80s, 70s, 60s, and further back. However, one thing that you cannot account for, one thing you cannot repair, is punishment that you get from wear and tear from taking punches, period. All right, taking punches to the liver, taking punches up top to the head. That takes something, it takes its toll on you. And you never know the moment where it's going to show. And I'm conflicted. I don't necessarily think it showed in the fight because he wasn't ready. I think it showed in the fight because Crawford was able to land a lot of counter punches, and then he's used to walking through that and just figuring it out as he goes. And he mentioned that in the post-fight press conference. But this time was different. I think his body betrayed him a little bit. He was taking some of the same shots that he took against guys like Sean Porter, right? Sean Porter lit him up. He won the fight, but that was a war. That was a battle. Those are the type of fights that take something out of you. You leave something in the ring before you go home to your family and friends after the fight. You leave something in that ring when you have fights like that. And I think this fight, he thought he was going to be able to persevere and push through it like he did with Porter or like he did with Ugas, which was a brutal fight as well. Ugas was landing a lot of big shots. Or Kell Brook. Kell Brook was lighting him up for 5 rounds. And he just was able to walk through it because he was just a bigger physical guy. But for the first time, it caught up with him. Now, maybe if this was 4 years ago, he might have lost to Terrence Crawford, but he would have pushed through it and maybe lost like 8-4 or something like that, right? But he wouldn't have broken down like the way he did. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not, but that's my opinion on it. And I think it caught up with him, and he paid for it. And he didn't have a backup plan. He had the jab, and I'm gonna follow up my offense, and then go downstairs working off that jab. And outside of that, he didn't really have any answers beyond that. I said in my video, he better have a plan A, B, C, all the way through M. Not A, B, C, D. No, you have to have plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way through as far as you can go. Because Bud Crawford, he has a plan A, B, C, and D, but he is truly unique because he can generate offense in very unorthodox ways. Very unorthodox ways, no pun intended, because he came out straight southpaw and said, I'm going to come after you. No, but he can generate offense in very unorthodox ways. Yeah, he does the fundamentals very well. He has a phenomenal jab. He throws hooks. He throws uppercuts. But outside of some of the basic combinations, he has the ability to make up things on the fly with no rhyme or reason. And it's really dependent on what you're doing and what opponent he has in front of him. He can just adjust. That's a special skill. I've only really seen that out of guys like Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, guys like Lomachenko. Anyway, those are some of the guys I can think of specifically. Roy Jones Jr. And you would think I would say Mike Tyson, but no, I think Mike Tyson, he had certain things he liked to do, and he just did them extremely well. But those guys I mentioned, they can create something out of nothing. Like when it looks like there's no space to throw a punch, they come up with a combination that you just wouldn't even think of at that moment in the fight and make it look good. They're not just throwing it sloppy like, toppings falling off a Big Mac. No, they're throwing it with a surgeon's precision. And it's just something special to behold. And I use that word sparingly, not to see. It's something special to behold. You follow me? I don't really think I'm still processing what I witnessed last night and this week period. And then we're going to have another fight coming up in September for my birthday weekend for Canelo Alvarez and Charlo. I never get the name right. It's the Charlo that's at 160. I don't know if it's Jamel or Jamal. Forgive me, Charlos. You guys look the same, so cut me some slack. But it's the one that's sitting up at 160. Maybe that's the older brother. So we have a lot of great fights this year, period. But to have two like this in 1 week, crazy, man. But I want to know you guys' opinion. Like, what did you think going into the fight? And then did it play out the way you thought it would? Did you see a win for Bud? Did you think Spence was going to win? And if you thought Crawford was going to win, did you think it was going to happen in this fashion? I would really like to know that. But those were my thoughts on why I picked Bud and why I thought it was going to happen. I thought it was a possibility. I thought he would win the fight for sure. I thought it would be a decisive win for Bud. That was my opinion in my video. And I think if it got really bad, that's why I said I wouldn't be surprised if Spence got stopped. And that's really a bold statement because that man, not only has he never been stopped, he had never been knocked down up to that point in his career. After some of the wars he's been through, never been knocked down. Not only did he get knocked down, he got knocked down 3 times, and then there would have been a 4th time, but the referee jumped in. And then not only did he get knocked down 4 times, but he really didn't have an answer for anything after, I would say, round 3 or 4. Like, he just kept trying to plot along with his original game plan and maybe make a tweak here and there, but it just didn't work out for him. And I remember in round 6 or 7, right before the 2 knockouts in round 7, I was saying, you need adjustments. And Derrick James was giving him some really good advice in that corner, but one thing that he needed to hear or needed to do was get your head off the damn center line. All right. Whenever you guys see my boxing videos, when me and Stevie Franks are holding the pads for each other, we're throwing combinations. One thing I am a disciple of is controlling the center line of your opponent and making sure that your head is off of your own center line, or at least you're guarding your own center line. That applies to chess, and that's one of the best analogies I can think of, chess and boxing. If you control the center of the board, and I've said this ad nauseum, if you control the center of the board in chess, if you don't win, you'll still be a nightmare to deal with. And if you are good, you'll be damn near impossible to beat. Same thing applies to boxing, or martial arts for that matter. if you control your center line, whether that's through good defense, blocking, or if you're moving your head off the center line or you're stepping off the center line, like you see with Pacquiao or Lomachenko, you see them feint off the center line. If you're controlling your own center line, and then you're also getting through their center line, especially if they don't move their head, I mean, good luck. And I don't know if that would have changed the outcome of the fight, but what I do know is he might have been able to get through 12 rounds and have some more success for sure. He would have definitely had more success because Terrence Crawford is throwing a jab, throwing uppercuts, and instead of throwing your jab, Spence, like this, and then moving your head off the center line and then maybe coming with your 4 or coming with a 2. No, you're throwing that jab and then coming straight forward with your punch and loading it up. No, the hook's still loading right now. It's not even, it's like 50% loaded. It's still loading. And your head's right here to be hit. Of course Terrence Crawford's going to be able to get you. And just go ahead and look at the first knockdown. When he got knocked down, he threw that jab and he was sitting there. His head's on the center line. Look at where my hand is and look at my face. If you throw a punch down the middle, guess where it's going to hit? Whoa. Where am I at? You know what I mean? That's what he needed to hear at that point in time. So the lack of adjustments just was unfortunate for Spence. And, you know, I want to mention 2 people. Timothy Bradley, he has been shouting from the mountaintops about Bud Crawford for years. And go ahead and check his social media or any videos you can find of him. And he told y'all. Tim, you told him. And then the second person, and he echoed my convictions and really helped me solidify my opinion going into my video, Antonio Tarver. Antonio Tarver pointed out a lot of these things going into the fight. And specifically, man, just how Bud is a dog. The lack of defense and then Bud being a dog. Those 2 things were just a recipe for disaster for Errol Spence. But that being said, I want to really commend both guys for being class acts post-fight. When they had the post-fight press conference and they embraced and they showed genuine love to each other. That's what boxing should be. You go in there to inflict punishment and pain, and when it's all over, you want to see each guy go back to their family healthy and with their faculties intact. So I hope that Errol Spence is okay. And I guess last point that I'll make here is I think both of these guys are going to move up to 154. Both of them were struggling to make weight at 147. That's not really a secret, but even more so with Errol Spence. He's a big guy. There's really no reason why he should be fighting down at 147. You know, you have 3 belts. You want to get the 4th one. This probably was going to be his last fight at 147 anyway because of the opportunity. Not just to fight Bud, but the fact that he had the other belt, the last belt. But he can't make that weight. And to my point before, you keep doing that too long, and you're eventually going to lose that punch resistance because you can't put on that water weight back into your skull. I think that's something that caught up with Roy Jones Jr. when he went up to heavyweight and then he dropped down in weight really quick. Those fluctuations, it's a different dynamic, obviously, moving down in weight. But, you know, he moved up to heavyweight, and then at that age, maybe it just got really tough for him to not just lose the weight to go back down to light heavyweight again, but just how quickly you're doing that change in weight. It caught up with him when he fought Antonio Tarver the second time. The punch that Tarver hit him with, if he didn't go up to heavyweight before that and he had the proper punch resistance, maybe he takes that shot better. Maybe he doesn't get knocked out. Like, those things matter. That goes for anything. If you play football and you're trying to, let's say you get out of shape in the offseason, right? And then you come back into training camp to get in shape instead of like working on your fundamentals, you come back into training camp to get in the shape. You're trying to do that in a short amount of time. You know, some guys, guys fail the conditioning test all the time. And the older you get, the harder it is for you to be able to get away with bad lifestyle habits. And coming back down in weight, eventually it's going to catch up with you. So I don't know if I would want to see a rematch with him and Bud But if there were to be a rematch, it would be interesting to see what happened, one, at 154, at a more natural weight for him, and then two, how he would do with making the proper adjustments. Because they're not, it's not that there are hard fixes that he needs to make. It's about, can you break yourself out of these bad habits at the stage in your career that you're at? There's a reason that there's a saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's not that you can't teach them. It's about, one, if they're stubborn, and then two, even if they aren't stubborn, once you get hit once or twice with a good shot, are you going to forget all these new things that you just learned and go back to all you know? Right? That's really the issue. So, food for thought, some things to think about, but I figured I'd give my thoughts in post-fight reaction, but man, what a week, dude. And then, last but not least, I know I have the Raiders hat on, but Kelly Green, I don't know if it's for one game or more, but the jerseys are back for the Eagles. They are back. Greatness personified all week. But that's it for now, man. I appreciate y'all listening to me, run my mouth. And I'll continue to do so because I'm a boxing head. I have a passion for it. But, how'd I forget? And I think this really stood out to me. You had Terrence Bud Crawford say he would love for Eminem to come out for the ring entrance for his fight on social media, maybe Instagram or whatever. And he's just throwing it out there, let's see what happens. And Eminem responded. He said Eminem responded and hit him back. He was like, yo, I would love to, man. I'm a huge fan of you. And, the rest is history. They made it happen, and he came out to Lose Yourself. And when I saw Bud Crawford with the trunks with the fishnets on the one side, and then the demeanor he had, he was like a stone cold killer, from wrapping his hands by himself in the training room, answering questions, just having that. He had like a, he was like Agent 47 this time. Contrary to what I said in my video, he just looked like a cool, calm, collected killer. Like, yo, I'm just going to go ahead and collect this scalp and then, get the money for the contract. What else do you want to know, interviewer? Oh, yeah, what type of ice cream I like? Yeah, I like whatever. Anything else? Cool. And it just fit. He was just so locked in, so calm, so focused. And then standing out there, that killer look on his face. Like, not even like angry, just like, I'm upset that I have to do what I'm about to do right now, but it must be done. No remorse, no emotion, just eyes devoid of emotion, just focus and a quiet intensity that was going to grow as the fight went on. And then Eminem having the same energy, matching it. One GOAT setting the vibes with the entrance music to get ready for the coronation of the next GOAT. Only 9 rounds after that moment. Not only was this a great moment in history for Terrence Crawford, and he's going to make a lot of fans just because everybody that saw Eminem, they're going to look at, hey, Eminem came out with that entrance. Who's that guy? And then they're going to see this fight and then go back look at his other highlights and be like, whoa, this guy needs to go on my playlist on YouTube. All his highlights. It's going to set him to the moon. And he hasn't done the best job of promoting himself, but if that was not planned out, trying to get Eminem to come out for the entrance music, man, what a hell. There's no better way to promote yourself now. Everybody knows who you are now. They might not have known about your win, and they might have seen it flash across the screen on ESPN. Terrence Bud Crawford becomes undisputed champion and then went back to their day. But no, now they're really going to lock in because they seen Eminem, and then they're going to see your performance. You're a legend now. You are an undisputed champion in 2 weight classes. That's never been done. You were GOAT status just off of that. And then who you did it against. You just did it at 140. Now you come up to 147 and you've stopped every person you faced at 147, including the big fish, the biggest fish, Errol Spence. People are going to look at this fight and say, why was he in the ring with Errol Spence? Not realizing that Errol Spence was, like I said, and still was up to that point, the boogeyman at 147. People didn't want to see Spence. He was it like Spence would say, it's strap season. I'm coming after everybody, right? So to do that against him, GOAT status, GOAT, GOAT. And then Eminem has now solidified himself in history in another way. People already view him as one of the top rappers that a lot of these people have heard over the course of the years. You know, and then you have 8 Mile, which is like, damn, that's almost like his Prince moment when Prince had Purple Rain, the movie, along with the album, right? And now people are going to remember Bud Crawford's performance and the tone you set walking him to the ring. And then being a GOAT by saying, you know what, I'm here, I set the tone, I'm matching your energy. And when we walk out part of the way, I'm going to dap you up, and then I'm going to send you out. This is not my moment. This is your moment to become a GOAT. Go ahead and do what you need to do. Respect to both of those guys. That's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch y'all on the next one, man. Deuces.